to get in, they're going to have to win close to winning out down the last 5 games of the season. That's a team you don't want to mess with. Either that or the reverse is they wear themselves out in the process. Now, if you get too worn down, if you lose a lot of guys, that's where injuries play in. But that team's hot, man. So whoever comes out of that North, they're going to be in playoff mode basically for the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. Yeah.
It's like the team that comes down to at the end that's playing hot, like you're saying. You got to admit that the Browns, as the season has dragged on here, they haven't regressed. They haven't regressed like they did last year. They didn't regress like they did the year before that, or the other 15 years, since '99. So it's the team that gets hot, like you're saying, that is the dangerous team and that nobody wants to play. That's the bottom line.
Right, and so whether it's whatever team, I'm not specifically saying that about the Browns. Whoever comes out of the North is going to be, they're going to be sharp. They're going to have really played their way in down the stretch. So that's going to be a team to look out for, whichever one of those teams it is. All right, well, we're looking ahead. Let's not do that. Let's center that focus like the Browns do. They're worried about one game and 1-0, and it's Buffalo this weekend. And I know you got some Dawg Bones that are going to give us the roadmap on how they get there. You ready to do it?
Yeah, I'm ready to do it. Let's get into these Dawg Bones.
That's what she said. Let's do it. Dawg Bone number 1. Ryan Ruiz, how you doing? Dawg Bone number 1.
All right. Dawg Bone number 1, J-Rock, pressure. The Browns defense must find ways to get pressure on Kyle Orton. Since taking over the reins at quarterback, Orton's 4-3 as a starter. He's thrown for 1,800-plus yards, like you guys talked about in the scouting report, 12 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. Before the Falcons game, it's almost like Orton's a little bit like Hoyer. Not necessarily a game manager, but he does just enough to win football games and doesn't make mistakes like Hoyer. So Orton's a pocket passer, and he can sling it. I watched a lot of film of him this year in those 7 games. He can sling the football. I watched a lot of him when he was with Denver. The Browns cannot let him get comfortable back there, especially in the cold weather. Cleveland secondary is going to be missing a Pro Bowl caliber safety to Sean Gibson, which that's not good. I don't think that the secondary of the Browns is good enough to hang with the speedsters Watkins and Woods, like you guys mentioned. You guys know how high I was on Sammy Watkins, the draft. If Orton has all the time in the world, it's going to be a long day for the defense. Orton has 21 20-plus yard throws. We talk about chunk plays for the Browns. In 7 games, Orton has thrown 21 20-plus yard throws. Dawg Bone number 1 is you got to get some pressure on him. Now, the thing about Kyle Orton is he's a pocket passer and has absolutely zero mobility. He has been sacked 21 times in 7 games. So if you can get to him, I think this game can stay close. Dawg Bone number 1, pressure.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you there. I think that's going to be a big part of it. The Browns defensively interested, anxious to find out if they end up clearing Dansby here for this one as well. That'll add some help to that there and in the back end. I saw interesting, too, which is I think this plays a part in what I mentioned earlier about the backfield, the defensive backfield, and how they're playing their best so far at this point in the season, because that's going to be the backside of it, is you get that pressure so that those guys aren't left out there on islands. But if they are, I think there's a reason that they're peaking at this point in the season. I saw a stat, and the Browns are leading the league in this. They're the only team that has a percentage this high. But of their secondary, they are the only team in the NFL that has 4 members of their secondary, the starting 4, that have played at least 96% of the team's defensive snaps. No backup member of the Browns secondary has played more than 34% of the team's snaps this season. So that starting, and by that group I'm referring to Joe Hayden, Dante Whitner, Buster Screen, and Tayshaun Gibson, who of course will miss the next couple of weeks of the season. But all of those players at 96% or more. No team in the league has had that much consistency in the defensive secondary. That, amongst everything else, is a reason why they're playing better, because they've played that much together up through this point in the season.
That's an awesome stat, J-Rock. 96% in those four guys, and I think you could put K'Wan Williams in there too, because he's done a great job in the slot and in the nickel. He's probably not up there at 96%, but I bet he's played 50% of the defensive snaps.
No, he's the next highest. He's at 34%, because you got to realize that he didn't start getting more of his reps until a couple of weeks into the season, before he started getting more of a role once they initially changed Gilbert's role. Remember, those two were kind of time sharing the backup stuff there, and then those roles changed, and Williams has really carved out more. Now, you're right. If you were to go just off of the last month, he's easily at 50-60% of the snaps. He's doubled it. But because of those first couple of weeks, he's at 35%. But still, it just goes to show, doesn't matter what it is, the more you do it together, the more you get comfortable with each other, the more chemistry you get. And defense really is, as much as people want to say J.J. Watt, Mario Williams, whatever, it's not one guy. Defense is truly 11 guys working as one.
Yeah, absolutely. The defense is another sign last week that they haven't regressed. They've gotten better and better every week. I think Paul Kruger's having a monster year.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is going to be a defensive game, like you and Jeff said. It's going to be about getting pressure, and that doesn't necessarily mean sacking Orton 5 times. You got to get some hits on him. You got to get some hurries on him. You got to get some pressures on him. So I think if the Browns can get the pressure on there, I don't think Orton's going to feel as comfortable as he has, say, against the Jets a week ago.
I'm with you. Ryan Ruiz, Dog Pound Nation. 3 dog bones to victory. Dog bone number 1, pressure. Dog bone number 2, my friend.
Dog bone number 2 is rapid fire, J-Rock. Rapid fire. What do I mean by that? You guys mentioned it earlier. You guys stealing some of my thunder here. 3 players with almost 10 sacks or more on this defense. This defense, I'm just going to say it, it's the best defense that we have played this season. Led by the All-Pro Mario Williams. Defense is definitely, they have 46 sacks on the year, like you mentioned. That's only 10 away, or 11 away from their franchise record set a year ago, and they still have, 5 games left. So I think they're going to break the record that they set a year ago with Mike Pettin. Rapid fire, what I mean by rapid fire is we got to get rid of the ball. I don't think this isn't going to be a game where Hoyer's going to have all the time in the world. Browns need to get creative, and they need to get creative with some of their speedsters like Andrew Hawkins and Travis Benjamin and Taylor Gabriel. Like, make him a Percy Harvin. Maybe run something out of the backfield. Set up a slip screen or 2. I could probably count on one hand on how many times the Browns have ran a halfback screen or slip screen or anything, because they don't do it. And I think you need to get quick hitters like the Josh Gordon wide receiver screen that they did twice last week to combat the pressure that's going to be coming on the other side, because this Buffalo defense is no joke. I mean, they made Tom Brady look terrible. They've made a lot of quarterbacks look terrible this year. This defensive front is averaging almost 4.5 sacks per game. And we all know from what we've seen so far this year that when Brian Hoyer is under pressure, he don't make the best decisions.
No,
so
absolutely.
Getting rid of the ball is going to be huge. You got to keep Hoyer upright. Rapid fire meaning get the ball out. 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000. Hawkins, Gordon, Benjamin, Gabriel. Somebody has the football. So dog bone number 2 is rapid fire, J-Rock.
And I agree with you there, too, especially when, and your point there, which you said, we kind of touched on a little bit earlier, getting the backs involved there more. But you mentioned averaging 4.5 sacks a game there. Brother, Brian Hoyer has been sacked 18 times all season long. Plain and simple. I mean, Do the math. 11 games, that's 1.5 per game or so, roughly, doing the quick math in my head. That's a big difference between 4.5. So there's going to be force and object, the irresistible and the unmovable, running into each other there to see which side gives. That's going to be big. I mean, you cannot, in my opinion, you cannot expect to keep Brian Hoyer clean throughout this game. So you just need to make sure that the couple of times that Buffalo does get through, that they're not those game-changing situations, the strip sacks that lead to an instant score or pick sixes, things like that. As we know, those things, you throw a pick six on the road, I think it's 80% gets the interception. So those are those quick game changers that even if you only give up 2 jailbreaks to the defense, they can change the whole game right there. So it'll be very interesting to see how clean the Browns can keep Brian Hoyer in that one. As I said, only 18 times he's gone, which I got to tell you, that number is quite amazing considering the problems in the middle of the season rebuilding an offensive line, that he has only gone down a little over 1.5 times per game.
That is a great statistic. That is something that I was going to actually mention. That just goes to show that's a true testament of how great that offensive line has played despite the major injury to Mack, and the fact that Nick McDonald is now the starter and Greco was once at center. With all the shifting going on the offensive line, I think that shows a lot that they've kept Hoyer upright 18 times. So,
hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
For people, no, just I wanted to throw in a point to what you're saying. For people, that use the terms like, same old Browns or whatnot, let me just make up a point right on there with what we're talking about. How many times in the past, and not just the Browns, but just bad teams in general, when you use terms like next man up, when we talk about losing Alex Mack, it's easy to say, next man up, we've got to get better, blah, 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 blah. But how many previous Browns seasons have, in Week 11, we've been talking about that's why the Browns have only won 3 games all year? Well, it's because they lost Alex Mack. When you want to find out the difference in a guy's heart, you look at here. They've had very bad circumstances and fought through it. They always say they're going to fight through it. They always say we're going to give our best effort, but they don't actually do that. They fold and collapse down the stretch. This is the first time in my memory that there's been a major injury that has truly had the ability to affect your season. More than anything else, we know that. Think about, people are forgetting because they're 7-4 now. Think about the week after Mack went down, and Jacksonville, and the way teams were attacking that offensive line, and the panic that was going on as people said, well, Browns are about to lose 10 games in a row. The Browns are not going to win a game the rest of the season because of this offensive line. And you know what? Most years that's true. They would have folded, but they'd have spent all season reminding you, well, we lost Alex Mack, and that's why things went the way they did. This year, they kept playing. They kept trying, and they got better. That's a difference. That's a difference right there, no matter where the season goes.
And something, J-Rock, that sums up the Cleveland Browns in 2014. They have fought, scratched, and clawed their way to 7 victories. They haven't always done it pretty, but I buy into the Mike Pettin mantra, it's a pass-fail league, and it's hard enough to win in the NFL. So, I mean, that sums it up. That they truly do the next man up thing, and somebody fills in. And that's why I'm not super worried about a guy like Tashawn Gibson not being in the secondary against Kyle Orton and the Bills on Sunday.
Absolutely. And plus, I still like the fact that he can work his way back. I'm telling you, I said it when Alex Mack went down, speaking of him, if the Browns had reasonable, I'm telling you, if they could have convinced themselves, he would have fought not to go on the IR just so that he could have found a way to get back. I can be back by the playoffs, but there's a difference. Look at the difference. When Gibson went down, they said, you know what? He really could be back by the playoffs. We're not going to put him on the injured reserve just yet, and that may work out for them because I truly expect them to get him back. I don't think it's even the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not out there for perhaps the last game of the season, especially if what I think is going to happen, which is those two divisional games on that final Sunday are going to decide who goes to the playoffs, because I think it's going to be that close. But yeah, man, and that speaks to it. And I mentioned it too, talking about that, just the different makeup of the guys. Having Dansby and Sheard out there fighting the coaches to get in the game last week, when normally veterans